Hi, everyone, and welcome to The Things We Know. I'm Lisa Callahan.
And I'm Kari Morin.
And today we're going to talk about habits, which is kind of one of our favorite things to talk about. We're going to start really by listing from berkeleywellness.com some of the common bad habits that we humans engage in. And then we're going to talk about good habits. But even the bad habits, Kari and I have decided we may not let go.
True.
Yes, full transparency.
Yeah. I mean, we as coaches, and the type of coaches you and I both are, we are really about habit change more than almost anything else. When people are like, what are you going to teach me? It's like, I'm not here to teach you. I'm here to help you with your habits, right? You have all the answers, and all of our answers are in your habits, or a lot of them are your habits and your beliefs, right?
Absolutely.
So, yeah, in full transparency with some of my bad habits today.
Yep, you got to get to hear them all. All right, well, let's start with the list. So again, this is from berkeleywellness.com, and these are some of the most common bad habits we engage in. So smoking, which research shows even in small quantities, it's bad for you. Did you ever smoke?
I did. I never really owned a pack of cigarettes, which just maybe makes me a lame friend, right?
You're always the one blowing the smoke.
Yeah, I mean, when people were smoking, I'd be like, sure. But I think it really bothered me so much when I was studying abroad in France, those really stinky French cigarettes. I don't know if you know what I'm talking about, the Gauloise or something. So I found that if I grabbed my friend's, sorry, Mom, what was it? I don't know what I want to say Coors Light, but it's not, it's a Coors Light of cigarettes.
Yeah. I mean, there were the Marlboro Lights.
Lights. Thank you.
Yeah. Mm-hmm.
So funny that I'm saying Coors Light, but similar. So yes. I would grab that and smoke one and feel like, okay, now the smell isn't bothering me, but I also kind of liked it. It was like a little bit of a buzz or something. And then, when we got back to school, it wasn't a habit I picked up. It was a social thing.
No, I definitely smoked. I smoked all through college. I was up to a pack a day at one point, for sure. And then I quit smoking when I started exercising, which is a good habit, which we'll talk about here in a second. But yeah, so I stopped, and I did stop cold turkey, which was interesting. So another bad habit is not exercising, not getting enough sleep, which that one's hard because you're not always in control of not getting good sleep, as we both know, but if you're actively staying up too late or getting up too early, that's a bad habit, right?
Yeah, you're right. I could debate that too. And that is one of my bad habits. If it is a habit. Yes.
Gotcha. Too much screen time before bed, which can cause the sleep thing, slouching, overspending. Yeah, right. Sit up straight. Overspending. This is another one I'm not a big fan of. Procrastination, because I'm a big believer that procrastination might just be your work style. So procrastination, I don't know if I think of that as a habit. Negative self-talk, definitely a bad habit. So what's your bad habit?
It's funny. I'm stuck. All of a sudden you said procrastination and I'm really thinking about that. Right. So we'll come back to that if we get a chance. Because what I was thinking was, if we get into this, some habits continue because you get a reward, right? And I can be a procrastinator. I can wait to the last minute to work on a presentation and it goes well. I've always said, if I wanted to be like an A+ speaker, I wouldn't procrastinate. I'd really put a lot of time into it and get some rest. But I can be at the last minute good B+ speaker, right? Or presenter. And so
that might be your opinion of you as a speaker, though.
True.
Right.
True. This is true. But I see it with my son too. If he waits, and I did this in college, you wait till the last minute. I don't with everything, but what he does, waits till the last minute, writes a paper starting at 2 a.m. and gets an A. So you get rewarded for it. So then you don't not do it the next time. So that's how it sort of becomes a habit for some people. I
guess, but see, to me, I'm exactly that. That's when I started realizing that, and I know we've just gone down a rabbit hole, but
sorry.
No, because but again, I think this is the difference.
Not sorry.
Yeah, sorry, not sorry. I think this is also where this can be a little murky, right? And like with anything, you guys can decide for yourself. But to me, I have always been that person. I always studied the night before a test. I always wrote the paper before the test. You and I don't look at these notes until the day we're recording. That is my work style. If I did this last week, I'd still have to look at it today. So for me, it would waste time to do it twice. So I no longer think of myself as a procrastinator. Now, does sometimes me waiting till the last minute bite me in the ass? Absolutely. But for the most part, I don't consider that. I consider that my work style, and I don't identify as a procrastinator anymore. So it's always something, especially when I'm working with my clients or my students. I know, identify. I'm sorry, but I do. I like identity. I've always point that out, like really take a look at your whole life. And if this is how you've always been, maybe shaming yourself, because that's what bad habits also tend to do, is make you feel shame.
I just having this unexpected moment where I feel like you're coaching me in this without even realizing it, because I'm looking at going, maybe this goes under negative self-talk habit, but I'm thinking your procrastination style does sound like a work style, right? And the procrastination I was thinking of, and pulling poor Peter into it, was feeling unhealthy or something, right? But you're right. It could be a style. And if you want to change it, look at the habit. Like, what are the habits?
Right.
So anyway, that's funny. It was, it's like, why am I looking at mine more negatively? Interesting. Maybe the next bad habit there that you listed.
We'll add that to the list of the million topics we have for future reference. I was hoping we'd get through one pod where we didn't say, might be a future topic, but not this one.
I know. All right.
So what is your bad habit?
Yeah, my I have many, obviously, because you just made me realize that. Thank you.
My bad.
I always say, and if any friends or kids of mine who are listening, and thank you for listening, friends and kids, they've heard this before, so they're not going to be surprised, but coffee is just one of those things. And I know for some people it's a health food. And I know for other people, it is a hormone disruptor. It is a anxiety stimulator. We know all these things. Is coffee good or bad? It's on the health list. It's on the bad list.
Right.
And as health coaches, we always say, hey, you figure out what's for you. And as we've said in previous recordings, there's no good or bad things. It's just what works for you. For me, coffee is like my bad boyfriend, right? I always say that. It's like, it doesn't always, it's since I've, gotten to an age where sort of I fluctuate with sleep or weight or things like that. Coffee, has become something I have to look at sometimes. And when I have to admit that when I was like off coffee, because it is sort of when I was off of it, boy, that was an unpleasant first few days, but I was sleeping better. I was still, having some green tea, which I love those memes that are like, studies show if you drink green tea instead of coffee, you'll have 85% less happiness or joy or something like that.
Right.
I felt that way at first. I was getting like a little bit, and then I weaned myself off, and I sure did have cleaner energy. I got to admit that it's probably, me at my best. In so many other ways, right? But when COVID hit, we all, even my, 14-year-old at the time, sometimes was like, can I have coffee? Like, sure. I was so happy to go back to it. It is sexy to me. It's the atmosphere of it. When, when you're entering this time of life and you have a naturopath that you want to punch in the throat, say to you, hey, if you're on this hormonal journey, you should give it. No, I don't really want to punch her in the throat. I'm just saying, I've heard so many friends, they're going to tell you to give up gluten and give up dairy and give up coffee and wine, which isn't true, everyone. But, I did hear that. And I've suggested that to people, 2 weeks, go off the stimulants and the, depressants like coffee and wine. It's actually easier for me to give up alcohol for a week than it is coffee. So it is that kind of habit like that. I love it in the morning. It's not even so much that I need it to be awake or anything. Like some people say, I just really like the smell of it. I like the way Brendan makes me a cup of coffee, my husband. And
it's a ritual.
It's a ritual. And it feels like a little Valentine when he brings me like coffee the way I like it. And so there's something about it that I just love. And so I always say it's like my bad boyfriend, because it's like, I know you're probably not that good for me, but I just want to sleep with you one more time. So
every morning.
Yeah, every morning it's like, I'm gonna have coffee. Oh, you're good. And like,
oh my God, it's so
feels
funny.
so good. And I'll give you up tomorrow. No, I won't. So I definitely have it's not even a love hate. It's just a love. And I know you're not probably the best thing for me right now. So then ideally I don't have it every day, and I don't have it because I need it. I have it because I want it. So I try to kind of, just maybe have one, and that's how I'm managing that habit. And then it doesn't feel so much like a habit. It feels just like something I let myself have.
Yeah. I mean, that's totally, coffee was, probably, I guess, a bad habit for me at some point. I haven't drank coffee on a daily basis since 2016. And part of it was tied to inflammation and whatever. But I still have the random cups of coffee, right? So I think like anything, there is this aspect of moderation, right? And if you feel like you're managing it, is it really a bad habit? I don't know. I mean,
I don't know. I was going to ask you, do you have a bad boyfriend habit?
Oh, I knew you were going to ask me that, and I don't really know the answer. I mean, I definitely think there's things I do that probably I don't think of as being, again, it's kind of like your coffee thing. Like, yeah, I have cocktails pretty much every night, but I don't feel bad about that. And I absolutely have not, so it doesn't feel, I don't want anybody sending us little notes like Lisa might need to go to a meeting. But is there anything that's a bad habit? I can't think of anything. Isn't that, and it's not because I feel like I'm perfect by any stretch, but I just can't think of anything that is a bad habit. I don't know. But here's what I do know. I mean, I guess here we go back to, habits, like anything, everything we do has a positive intention, right? Even when it's not serving us. So there's the bad habit part of this, right? So when we're doing something, like you just said, some of the positive intentions around the coffee, right? It's like a little Valentine from Brendan. You like the whole ritual of it. So you're getting something out of this experience, even if there's a part of you that knows if I didn't drink coffee, I would sleep better. Maybe I'd have less inflammation, whatever it might be, right? So there's that positive intention right there. We mentioned very briefly back in Make Your Body Your Bestie, the idea of emotional eating. And so I guess maybe that could be a bad habit, because you asked me if I ever emotionally eat. And I said, well, anytime you eat and you're not hungry, you're emotionally eating. And it is true, right? If you're happy, if you're sad, if you're bored, if you're angry, in that moment, food does actually, especially if it's yummy food, and we very rarely angry eat carrots. So if you're eating something when you're angry, it does give you that hit of dopamine. So in the moment, emotionally eating scratches an itch that needs to be scratched. So the question with any bad habit that you're trying to change is, what is the positive intention? And how can I do it? How can I scratch that itch in a different way? So just to use the Brendan thing, like, is there another way, if you wanted, I don't care whether you drink coffee, but if you wanted, could there be another way that Brendan's like daily Valentine could show up that wasn't in the form of coffee?
Totally. Yeah, absolutely. I'll get him right on that.
You're welcome, Brendan.
Do you mean like a mimosa? No, I'm just kidding.
Yes, actually I do. That totally.
And you know what? He does. Sometimes you just surprise, if he's around, I mean, when he works from home, you very often I'll come off of a call with a client and he'll have breakfast, so it's really thoughtful. So you're right. I mean, it's funny. It's just, I think it's an exciting thing. And as you were talking, I was thinking the positive intention there is it's something for me, because so much of my life still with 2 kids at home, and one, with more needs than he would even care to have right at the moment with his seizure stuff. I think it's just this one thing that I do for me, that, and like a good habit is I take my vitamins, right? And I know that I'm off kilter when I don't do that, or if I forget to do that, but for some reason I never forget the coffee. But I think it's like that moment. And in fact, one of the things I find like I hold sacred, and I do get it every day, is whether I have coffee or not, it could be tea, it could be water. Is just a few moments, after exercise, like after the kids are gone, before I go back to my next thing. I love to sit in the chair, like petting the dog, maybe reading, maybe listening to a podcast or something. But like that is also, like that reminds me of what coffee does for me. So sometimes it is where I sit and have my coffee. So
yeah, I love that. So there's this TED talk that you put some notes on here from Eva Gruber, Power of Bad Habits. What do you want to share some about that?
She, like, I won't go into all of it because it's a lot, but she said a couple of things that I thought was really interesting that I wanted to bring here. and she was talking like it's called, if you want to Google it and look it up on YouTube, The Power of Bad Habits. And it gets at the root of bad habits by, like they just knowing that they are dominated by emotions like fear or shame. So when like her example was, and the other thing is she said is we also need less physical habits and more mental habits. And her example of that was a woman feeling that she wants to lose weight, thinking she needs to lose weight, is thinking, she probably has bad feelings about her body. Plus it turned out that she also had a lot of guilt about, if I exercise, I'm not taking care of my kids. So she was sitting more, she was feeling the guilt, and it led to like some emotional eating or some, distracted eating or some shame eating, whatever that was that she spoke to. Right. So it led to that habit where she said, you don't say to someone like that, okay, well, you just have to not reach for it and get up more and move. Right. You have to address the mental habits there. And that's something you and I, we're trained to do. And that's something we do all the time. And this goes beyond just yourself and your home life. It goes into your work life, right? When you're trying to change a physical habit, getting at the root of the thoughts you're hearing in your head, the stories you're telling yourself, the mental habit of believing it and then feeling shitty versus actually saying, wait. It's that whole step back, stop for a second. What is it that feels real right now and what's true? Then you can say like, oh yeah, like my kids actually need me to feel good. It's good for me to exercise. It's good for them to see me exercise. It's not great for them to just have me sitting near them. Right. Yeah. So, so just working out or not eating isn't enough. It's actually working on the messages and this, to yourself and the reminders of who we want to be. So I think that was a really good one to, kind of get at, right? So like if I were to apply that to a bad habit, like, I don't know, like you said earlier, not getting enough sleep, which is again controversial because sometimes that is not because I don't want it. But like if I think about the times when Brendan's on call and I stay up late, right? The mental thing is I have all these things to do, right? And you can't just tell me go to sleep earlier. I actually have to like start delegating some of that stuff, remind myself that sleep is important. Like it is way more of a mental game to change that habit than it is about like actually doing the physical thing, right? So, yeah, no, that makes total sense. Again, all of this, even what you're saying about the power of bad habits, there's a positive intention. Right. So instead of feeling guilt or shame around the bad habit, if you want to change it, take that step back, find out what the positive intention is, and then you can dissect it from there. But if just going down that shame spiral, I mean, that doesn't serve anyone. And it certainly doesn't help you change the habit because then you're probably just keep doing it to make yourself feel better each time or whatever. So, the top 3 benefits of good habits are they help maintain positive actions even when motivation is low. Love that one. And good habits have the ability to replace bad habits, as long as you know why. And then habits make you more productive. So what are your good ones? Let's talk about those. Well, you said supplements. Yeah. Every morning I have a very good morning routine. Many people think I'm crazy that I get up as early as I do, but I'm a morning person and I love it. So I get up, I have my supplements, I work out. I love being done with all of that stuff before anybody gets up. And so this idea of it helps maintain positive actions even when motivation is low, that is absolutely my morning routine. Because I wake up and think, oh, I should sleep longer, or I'm just going to sleep for a little bit longer. And then I remember what makes me happy about getting up and doing all that stuff is that I'm done before anybody else wakes up. So that's the motivation for me. Getting out and getting sunshine. I mean, this pod's going to drop a lot farther down the way, but we've just come out of another absolute week of gray skies and I was losing my mind. So sunshine is incredibly important to me. And then music, music's always been a big part of my life, but in the last 2 years, it's become a ginormous part of my life. It's pretty much all I do in between anything else I'm doing is listen to music. So that having that energy in my system is a good habit for sure. What about you? Mm. Well, it's interesting when I was thinking about those three, like the benefits, I was first thinking about what makes me more productive. What are the habits that make me more productive? They're the things I don't even think about, right? Which is
Sure.
again what we do with as people who like when I work with clients on habit change, it's what I'm doing, hopefully helping you shift them so you don't even notice that you're doing them.
Yep.
So I was thinking about that. I have the habit of never like there's 3 levels in my house. I never go upstairs without looking around to see what needs to go
Oh,
ever.
that's a
Like
good
I
one.
just never do that. And I like celebrate how badass that feels sometimes because I can hold a lot of things and like I'll go down and like deal with them. And I don't know, it gives me a lot of energy, maybe because of the coffee. No, I'm kidding. But I love that. I love just things in their place. And
Mm,
so it makes me more productive in the things I need to get done around the house and because I work at home, right? So just
hmm
having like things move through the house efficiently is
hmm
really like it's a habit that I don't like that I've developed and hard as I try, I can't get anyone else to take on. So I
Well, they don't see the positive intention behind that.
they don't. They appreciate it and they are
That's
impressed
good.
by it. And the other, like the work habit, and just like life habit that I have that makes me more productive is which I learned from one of our mentors, I think a long time ago, but maybe even before that, is I put tasks in my calendar. I don't have a
Hmm
to-do list and then a calendar. And that is such a
Me
great
too.
habit, like that I never, that I never separate those because it makes me more productive. And if I complete something, I won't shut my laptop until, I've done the notes, I've completed it. And so it has saved me a lot of go back time.
Nice.
So those are some of the ones. But in terms of like, what are the things I maintain even when motivation is low? That's difficult because I live in, not so sunny Portland and I'm from Southern California. And I've noticed that like ever since I've had my younger dog, it is harder to get out of bed on a rainy morning when she's snuggling right there. So
Aw,
the habits that I have is like that simple thing that sounds probably so basic, but as I have my workout stuff and my shoes where I can see them, and
yep.
it's like that reminder that says you're going to feel so good, right? So
hmm
so there's that, and then I have like a glass of water by the bed, so that's the first thing I do. So those things, once I do them, and I'm just kind of have my habit of breathing, then it gets me to the morning routine, which for me is writing, movement, and then either breathing, sitting, or meditation. One of those three. Like, whether I have 5 minutes or 55 minutes, I will do a combination of those three. But I
Nice.
can't get to that little trio of things unless I've, you know, overcome the low motivation when it's so cozy in bed and so cold outside. So yeah.
Mabel. I mean, again, this idea of motivation. I mean, you were saying some of those things too, like the bigger outcomes we get. Rest is important. And so when you were going back to one of the bad habits of staying up late because in your head you've got all these things to do, I think we don't recognize sometimes, and I just saw a really good reel again by one of our mentors recently about this, that rest actually makes us more productive because we rejuvenate,
Mhm.
and so that sort of recognizing how good habits can create better outcomes. You said this without saying the paradigm, but I both love and hate the paradigm that we help our clients be different without having to think about being different. So right,
Mhm.
that's the stuff you were saying, like your best habits are the ones you're not even paying attention to, which is
Mhm.
fantastic. But I'm going to invite you all, if you are working through bad habits and moving them into good, that every once in a while you do recognize how far
Mhm.
you've come. Like you do take
Yeah.
that moment to say, yes, I'm doing this automatically now, but it wasn't always like this. Because if at some point when it becomes something you do without having to think about it, you forget that this wasn't your normal. And celebration's important around this, around changing habits, so that it does become more motivating. You can look
Yeah.
back and go, I've changed other bad habits. I can do this as well.
Yes. Yeah. Which totally brings me to one of my favorite topics, which is habit change, right? And I think it can be boring for clients at first. Like, let's look at your habits. Like, oh, I have these big goals. I don't really want to talk about how I do things. And
Right.
but I think there's the foundation of any successful pursuit. That's been true for me. It's been true for you. It's been true
Yep.
for everyone we've worked with. So, they are the building blocks of creating change. I think I don't think it's a paradigm, but it's something that Stacey Morgenstern, one of our mentors, always says, like small hinges, and Kari,
Yeah.
Peters, small hinges swing big doors, right?
Mhm.
So it's why we break it down to habit change, because if we can make those incremental shifts in how we do things, then, that can lead to huge leaps forward. James Clear, if you haven't read his book, Atomic Habits, or listened to it, or heard his podcast, or heard him guest, it's really, really compelling. Again, for some people, it sounds boring. I think if you listen to him break it down, it's really interesting. And my favorite quote of his is, "We do not rise to the level of our goals. We fall to the level of our systems."
Mm.
And that always hits me, especially when I look around at the family and I'm like, you guys, we could do better. Like these little things, and then it's true. Because when like we're all kind of, shifting our habits more intentionally, everything's running better for us. And then we're all enjoying each other more too.
Yeah.
So it, like what he says is atomic habits, the kind of habits that you really want to create, they are the building blocks of remarkable results, right? Somebody doesn't just run a marathon and win it. They like develop a daily habit, and the mental habit, which, going back to Eva Gruber, the mental habit of this leads to that. If I can run this far today and I rest tomorrow, I can run a little farther. So it's like also understanding progress and celebrating it along the way is also like that mental habit is also what gets you there.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I love that. So some of my favorite habits, when I think about health, for sure, drinking water. You just said you have the glass next to your bed. I have a bottle of water filled cold all the time in the fridge, and then I fill up my individual water bottles in the morning. So I have that. So I know, okay, if I've gotten through these 3 water bottles, then I've drank a gallon of water. So that, and moving consistently, that was something I learned a while back around the idea of like, you could work out every morning, and then if you sit all day, it kind of almost goes, what you've worked out doesn't even matter. And so we joked about this before we started recording, the idea of being fidgety. That kind of stuff is actually a good habit. We were so traditioned as children, sit still, right? But fidgeting is actually a good thing. And just a general sense of, if you're work in a sedentary place, like you and I both do, being able to get up and walk around in between clients, whatever you're doing is really important. From a life perspective, I was trying to think, what are some of my favorite habits from a life perspective? And I think hugs and long hugs, right? Like, again, you get that little endorphin like hit when you hug for like more, I think that's like 10 or 20 seconds when you hug somebody, like you actually get a little hormonal hit. And then telling people that you love them, and not waiting. I mean, I've gotten big at that, and laughing, which is why I like doing this pod.
I know, laughter and music. That's what I'm always like. Those are my top 2 medicines.
For
I love
sure.
what
And
you
then,
just, go
ahead. Sorry, no, finish. Nope, you
finish and I'll comment.
Okay. All right.
Let's boss each other around a little.
Yeah. No, you go. The last one though was business. When we're thinking, so if you're thinking health, life, business, whether you are in a career or you are building a business, you have to do some marketing, right? You might be marketing as an entrepreneur. You might be marketing yourself if you're looking for a job or wanting to go up in your job. And there has to be some consistency there. So I think you sort of said this around putting it in the calendar, the idea of time blocking or something that just makes it easy to be consistent around moving forward in your career, which however it looks. Those are, I think, some of the ones I love. So what were you reflecting on?
I was reflecting on the long hug. My friend Mona did that with her teenage son, or I don't think he was a teenager yet. Maybe it was, maybe it was like a middle schooler, but she was like, hey, like holding you in for the long hug. And my kids knew about that before I did because they're friends. And so I was like, well, I like that idea. Although, my younger 2 are still big huggers.
Yeah.
I think Peter was just getting older at the time. He was always such a hugger and a snuggler, but less so as he got older. So, but just everything with him, when you get his time and his love and affection, it means so much, because you just don't see him as much, and he's always moving. So, they all give great hugs. And you're right. Yeah. That is such a good habit to get in. Although it's interesting because I am starting to really learn and reflect that's such a Western thing. And
that's interesting.
And that, some people are really uncomfortable with hugs, and we do raise kids going, give him a hug, give your aunt a hug. And so
that's
as much as like I think it's a good habit, I like to be really clear with hug consent, right? I like to be really clear about that because then,
Yes.
and my kids are like, yeah, but you kind of look at people like a hug. I'm like, yeah, I do have the warmth.
Wait. Did they say you look at people like a hug?
Yeah, like
that's exactly right. I agree with them 100%. You do look at people like a hug.
Oh, so happy to see you. So yeah, I love that.
That's
Nice
so
dog
cute.
bark. So you mentioned fidgeting. That was the other thing. Like,
yeah,
I was in researching for this because I always like to do a little Google research, not research. That super annoyed me when people say they've been researching and they were just Googling. That's me. I Googled and because I was like, come on, give me good news on bad habits. I want to make this a little more fun. Because as much as I love to help people with their good habits. So, again, like with the food episode, like not everyone's bad habit is someone else's bad habit.
Right.
But they said bad habits you can keep in the Rush Memorial article is, like you said, fidgeting, right? Because that is really good for calming anyone with anxiety, anxious thoughts. It's good.
It's good like a couple years ago.
Yep. It's good for like vagus nerve and midline sort of balance stuff. That's why people have in their offices those little trampolines.
Yeah.
So like fidgeting is actually a really good, a good thing for the brain. The other thing they said, a bad habit you can feel good about is double checking. Some people will tell you, that's annoying, I already did it. But, they were saying that, that said, these kind of habits have a self-preserving effect. The one time the garage door really is open or you really do have lettuce in your teeth, you'll probably be glad you checked, right? So it is some self-awareness. And if it, starts to feel a little obsessive, then maybe you can, find out what needs not being met. Because that's the thing, right? What we're saying here is all habits are meeting some sort of need, right? Not just the positive attention and intention, but like what needs being met there. The other thing it said you can keep drinking. It does say in parentheses in moderation. Right? In moderation, because obviously drinking too much alcohol can increase your risk of alcoholism. We don't make light of that at all. But they also said like there are some relaxing properties in the ritual. There's some red wine has, I never can say that word.
Riboflavins.
I thought it was resveratrol or something. Someone's going to correct me, I'm sure.
Please do. Please comment.
We love corrections. We love when you fill in the blanks for us. So So I mean, for me, like, I love it. I love this topic. And when we put it in here, we're like, that was exciting. But then I thought, oh, this is good because it's the
basis for everything.
It is. And it makes me celebrate like the little things. And it makes me think of, I know he passed away in the last couple of years, Thich Nhat Hanh, the Buddhist monk.
Yep.
My favorite of many of my favorite quotes of his, but my favorite is that simple, this leads to that, right? So every little thing you do, you can celebrate as like supporting something or meeting some need, right? And if you're having a bad habit, you can even celebrate that it's meeting some need, right? That it's got a positive intention. And then that's when you can decide whether or not you can shift it. So I like that.
From Thich Nhat Hanh, I don't think I'm saying that right, all the way to Ed Sheeran. Shall we end?
Oh, yeah, we shall.
With our quote. So, I mean, there's so many songs about habits and I was looking up and so many of I was like, oh yeah, no, I can't read those. Oh no, not reading those lyrics. I thought about Hard Habit to Break from Chicago.
I did too.
That song is.
I've been super annoyed that it's been in my head today because I don't like the song, but in writing up these notes.
And I was like, oh my God, what a piece of treacle. Sorry, Chicago, but it really. So we went with Ed Sheeran, which in and of itself, for anybody, for my kids, if they're listening to this, yes, we've always maintained that we're not huge Ed Sheeran fans. Although Darren did stand behind him at a concert. Yes, you are. But I'm
not huge fan. I appreciate him. I don't really know all. And I
actually now appreciate him too, because I was listening to the song, looking at the lyrics, and I was like, I actually kind of like the song. So this song is called Bad Habits. And the lyrics are this: swearing this won't be the last. Sorry, start over. This is the lyrics. Swearing this will be the last, but it probably won't. I've got nothing left to lose or use or do. My bad habits lead to wide eyes, stare into space, and I know I'll lose control of the things that I say. I was looking for a way out. Now I can't escape. I don't know. That just hit me because I mean, I think that's how you feel when, and there's that shame spiral, right? I
Right,
think,
right.
you know, and I'm going to invite Ed to relook at his habits. Are they really, if he listens to this pod, Ed, if you'd like to talk to me about changing.
What need
your
are
bad
they
habits.
meeting? You tell them I want to know. What need are they meeting?
I mean, this song is clearly about, actually, it's so interesting. Underneath the lyrics, it said, sometimes Spotify does this. It said, this is a quote from him. I wrote a month of mad songs. Like he was mad and he wrote these songs and this was one of them. And I was like, I feel you on that, Ed. So that's how we're going to end habits.
I love that. Well, cool.
All right. Well, I guess that's this week's episode.
Yeah, please let us know on the Facebook page, in the comments where you find us on Instagram or YouTube, wherever you want to let us know. We want to know some of your habits and your thoughts on this. And if you know how to pronounce any of those things we mispronounced, go right ahead.
That'd be awesome. Yes, please.
Yes.
We have no problem with corrections at all.
And once again, thank you for listening.
Oh my gosh, so much. Thank you so much. And we will be back here next week. Thanks, everyone.
Thank you.